Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to take a look at the Philadelphia Fusion's 2020 roster. Now, as we know, the Philadelphia Fusion finished the 2019 season with a 15-13 record and -3 differential, finishing the season 10th overall before getting eliminated in the play-in tournament by the Shanghai Dragons in the first round. And looking at this team, they've done some stuff. Interestingly, they've made some moves, obviously, as you would expect, and we're going to see how they really do going forward. Notable thing, of course, new head coach. They used to have Nametwee and Hayes as co-head coaches. They've moved on from both of them. They have KDG, formerly of the Seoul Dynasty, if I am not mistaken, where he was coaching in the past. Yep, that is exactly where he was. They keep some of the other coaching staff. They keep Christopher. They keep Moby Dick. Actually, they brought him on in November. And they have Seita as a new strategic analyst. So, interesting team here. Definitely a different team coaching-wise. And they look to be a much improved team on that end. So, their roster. What has changed? In terms of players that are no longer with the team, Neptuno was released, and he is now with the Guangzhou Charge. Elk, who is a two-way player, is no longer with the team, and Kib, who was with the team, is now no longer with the team. So let's look at this team and what they have. They have 11 players under contract. We shall start. Actually, have 12 players under contract. I take that back. We're going to start with the DPS, where, of course, they're bringing back Carpe. I take that back again, actually. There's 11 players, and I'll tell you why. Carpe. They have Carpe. And Carpe is, of course, superstar, hit scan DPS player. I would expect a lot from him. Not really much to talk about there. EQO is back with the team, of course. Not a lot to say there as well. Good player, very flexible, flex DPS player. They bring in Ivy, formerly of the Toronto Defiant, to come in, fill a secondary role to EQO, or potentially start over EQO. We don't know what they have planned for him. But he was a pretty solid player. Depends on what they want to do. This roster is very close to being a full Korean roster, which is part of why I'm surprised by some of the moves they made, because almost every player that's going to start on this team is going to be Korean, with one exception, possibly two, depending on if they play EQO over Ivy. Then you get the other interesting DPS player, which is Chipsa. As we all know, Chipsa is Christopher's brother. He is basically playing a role as their Doomfist specialist. That's really all he is doing here, is serving as their Doomfist specialist, and he'll likely continue mostly streaming, so I don't expect a lot from him. If Doomfist isn't something that's really needed, he won't play at all. If they need a Doomfist, he'll play. That's all there is to it. They've been very clear about that one. Controversial pickup just because he's a streamer and he's brothers with Christopher, but we'll see what happens there. I don't need to go into that. You all know about it. The final DPS player they have on this roster is Hisu. Now, Hisu is currently under 18. He turns 18 in March, so he won't be able to play early in the season, the very beginning of the season, the first few weeks. But who knows how many games they have in that time anyway. He's coming from Runaway. He's a solid player. What's interesting is his hero pool is very similar to Carpe's. So he's going to be playing the same stuff as Carpe. My guess is they want a first and second DPS team, which could be Carpe EQO and then Hisu Ivy, depending on what they would need. It's not going to be a travel thing because they don't have enough players in other positions for it to be a travel thing. It could just be a scrimming thing. It could be something that they want to have him in case they need him in the future. They may need to make trades or whatever. I don't really know. Hisu doesn't really play a super unique role in this team just because most of what he plays are the exact same heroes that we see coming out of Carpe. What I wouldn't be surprised is, based on what we've seen, Carpe last season hit a bit of a slump. He struggled a little bit, so I wouldn't be surprised if They brought in Hisu to play alongside him in the event that they need him. But this is a solid DPS lineup. I think any Carpe EQO lineup is very good. You bring in players like Hisu and Ivy to really kind of bolster this DPS lineup. And Chips is there to play Doomfist if they need it, but that's really his only purpose there, if that's even the purpose at all, which is a whole nother argument. Now, Snillo is an interesting player because if you go on Wikipedia, it still shows Snillo as being a part of this roster as a two-way player. However, I don't believe Snillo is still on this team. When they did their roster reveal, Snillo was not included. But they also never said that he was gone. So I don't really know what to expect. They also are not fielding Fusion University anymore. So I don't really know what to expect. We will have to see what happens. And I don't really know what's going on with Snillo. I don't know if he's confirmed, like, oh no, I'm still with the team or anything like that. That's something I'll have to wait and see in the future. But that is that for their DPS. Let's move on to their tanks. They still have Sato as their main tank. Interesting. I don't really think Sato is the best player, but if they feel confident with Sato, who am I to say otherwise? So they're going to hold on to Sato, and he's going to be one of the players who plays a very big role in this team because he is their only main tank player. In the flex tank role, they have Poco returning, and they have Fury coming over from the London Spitfire. Fury, of course, I think best flex tank in the league. I know a lot of people say Choi Hyobin is the best. I think Choi Hyobin is the second best. I think Fury is still the best based on what we've seen from him, the plays he's made. Yes, Choi Hyobin has made a lot as well. When you look at how good Fury has been just mechanically and the way that he has played, he has been a major part of the success that London Spitfire had. Now he comes to the Philadelphia Fusion. He's going to start for this team. I have no doubt about that. So I think Fury, very good player. Not a lot to say about him that hasn't been said already. I'd expect him to be a dominant starter for this team. I expect Poco to occasionally get some playtime, but he's not going to get much. I just think, and I still think Poco is a very good player, but he's not as good as Fury. And I think that it's interesting to me that they still have Poco. I think Poco is a big leader for this team. And we did see at times back in 2018 during the playoffs, we saw some Hotba and Poco play, but you can't really do that anymore because of the way the meta has evolved. But we also did see in the London Spitfire in 2019 playoffs, we saw Fury play some Sigma, or Fury play Orisa and Gesture play Sigma. So there's always the possibility that Fury's not a great Sigma player, and we instead see Poco on the Sigma, or we see Sato on the Sigma. And maybe we see Poco on the Sigma with Fury on the Orisa, or we just see Sato on the Orisa with Poco on the Sigma. That's something we'll have to watch out for, but that is something I wanted to take note of because we did not see Fury Sigma in the Overwatch League this past season. So their tank line, it is what it is. It's going to be pretty much the same as last year with the addition of Fury being a bit of an upgrade, but no change to Sato. We'll see how that happens. We'll see how that changes the team. Their support line is really the thing that gets the big change. They hold on to Boombox, but I don't think he's going to play he's going to play much, if at all. Instead, we're going to be seeing Funny Astro as their main support and Alarm as their flex support. Funny Astro, of course, coming from the Atlanta Reign. He was on a two-way contract there. Didn't play at all in the regular season, or at least on a normal basis. And Alarm being promoted from Fusion University. Alarm's a really good player. I would expect to see a lot of Alarm play. He is one of the top flex supports coming out of contenders right now. There was no question in my mind. There was never a question in my mind that he would get promoted to this team. As good as Boombox can be, I think that Alarm is a better player and a more safe player to keep and to run because he is a better player in my opinion. So that's why I'm not really surprised at what we have seen here with them bringing him up. So this team looks very interesting to me. Funny Astro as their main support is an interesting signing. I thought this team would go the direction of all Korean based on what we saw early on. Obviously, we saw EQO like not on this team and then on this team again, which was the sign to me they were going to go Korean with their roster. They were going to have a new Korean main support, and they were going to bring up Alarm, and they were going to have all these Korean DPS players, and they were going to have a new, Korean flex support, or flex tank, which ended up doing. But they didn't go all the way by having Funny Astro as their main support. And it's interesting to me that they just didn't go all the way in with a full Korean roster, because it seems like that's what they wanted. They have a Korean head coach in KDG, and they have, a Korean assistant coach in Moby Dick, but ultimately we didn't see them go all the way, which I think is very interesting. So I'm curious to see what this team is. I think this team is one of the most improved teams going into 2020. I really like their roster. I think it's just a very solid roster all around. I know I didn't really say a ton about a lot of the players, but it's the kind of roster where it's not a lot of new faces to the league, just new faces to the team, right? But like you keep Carpe EQO, you bring in Ivy. Ivy was one of the best DPS players on Toronto Defiant last season until they brought in Mangachu and Logix, and clearly we're going to run Mangachu and Logix because it just made sense with the way they were kind of rebuilding their team. But he was one of the best parts of the Toronto Defiant. And then you have you still have Sato and Fury, so those are two Overwatch League veterans in your tank line. Then your support line is Funny Astro, who is an Overwatch League player who never really got play time, and had some interesting things going on there with him, with his suspension that he had. And then you have Alarm, who's brought up from contenders, but a well-known quantity there. So it's a lot of really good players that they're bringing in. They're not bringing in a huge mystery of a player. Their biggest question mark is Chipsa, but they've literally said he's a Doomfist specialist. That's what they're going to use him for. And then they have, of course, Hisu, who fills in an interesting role in this roster because he's playing, or his main heroes are heroes that we've already gotten filled on this roster with Carpe, and then just Snillo, who might be on this team, might not be on this team. I have no idea what's going on with him. So it's interesting. We will have to see what happens going forward with this Fusion roster, because we don't really know what to expect, because there's a lot of really interesting things with this roster. I think it's very talented, and I think ultimately they are going to be a very good roster. I think they're going to be one of the strongest rosters in the Atlantic. I'd put them as a definitive top 3 roster in the Atlantic, up there with New York and probably Atlanta. Toronto's also up there. I'd probably put Toronto and Atlanta in that 3 spot. One of them is the 3. I'd say Fusion, probably the 2, maybe the 3. So I'm not definitive top 3. They're a top 4 team in the Atlantic. We'll make it that way. They're up there with New York and Atlanta and Toronto as the best teams, in my opinion, in the Atlantic. I like that they kept some of the important parts of this team together. Even if Poco and Boombox aren't going to be playing, they're going to be very good, I think, at keeping this team together and helping the team continue to mesh while you keep the Carpe EQO dominant damage duo together. And I think this is going to be a team that will probably find a lot of success next season. Will they win their division? I'm not positive. They have Atlanta, which is a tough opponent there. But I think they're going to be a team who is fighting for the playoffs. They should definitely be a top 12 team. They should definitely be a play-in team. I wouldn't be completely surprised if they were a top 6 team, just based on what we've seen from this team. I'm very confident in what they have done. They make moves. They could be the team that wins the Atlantic. it's very much within the realm of possibility. I think they are one of the teams, like I said, that has done the most to improve their roster, and I think they probably have done the most overall to improve their roster. I'm a big fan of what they've done, and I'm excited to see how they do going forward. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this roster in the comments down below. So leave your thoughts down below. Let me know how you feel. And if you think something differently than what I think, or if I said something that you don't agree with, or I didn't say something that you think I should have, let me know down below, and I will love to have a conversation with you. But that is all I have for you today. I hope you all have a very, very, very happy holidays and Merry Christmas, whatever it is you celebrate. And I will see you all on Friday for the next video. No Wednesday video, so you can celebrate the holidays and all that fun stuff. But that's all. So thank you once again. I hope you all have a wonderful day once again. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.